2021. We will begin in about 1 or 2 more minutes. Thank you for your patience and for attendance here this afternoon. Excellencies, distinguished moderator, speakers, and guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the ASEAN Institute for Peace and Reconciliation Discussion Series 2021. This afternoon's session is taking up the theme, Youth as Agents of Peace, Utilizing Digital Platforms for Narratives of Peace. My name is Kartika. I am the Project Management Officer of the ASEAN-IPR. Before we begin today's discussion, please allow me to brief you on some house rules to ensure everybody's comfort in following the discussion. Today's discussion will be approximately 2 hours long. The event is simultaneously live streamed on the ASEAN-IPR YouTube channel. Please ensure that you have steady internet connection and the updated version of the Zoom software. During the presentation of the speakers, attendees in Zoom who wish to pose a question to one of or 3 of the speakers may use the Q&A box, while viewers on YouTube can write their question in the live chat box. Please follow the format of question as explained by the organizer. Please refrain from using the chat or message box function on both platforms for personal or extensive discussions. We ask all participants to be polite and considerate in your messages. Thank you for respecting these house rules. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce our moderator, Her Excellency, Ambassador Artauli Tobing, the representative of Indonesia to the ASEAN-IPR Governing Council. Born in Jakarta, Ambassador Tobing earned a degree in English literature from the University of Indonesia in 1976, and later was awarded the Fulbright and Hayes Scholarship for her master's degree in American Studies at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C. from September 1976 to June 1978. Ambassador Tobing is a career diplomat, joining the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1981. She served various positions at the ministry, including postings at several Indonesian foreign missions on continental Europe and Canada. She was Indonesia's ambassador to Vietnam from January 2004 until February 2008, where she was awarded the Medal for Friendship from the Vietnam Union Friendship Organization in Hanoi, Vietnam on 6 February 2007. After her retirement as a career diplomat, Ambassador Tobing served as the Executive Secretary of the Presidential Advisory Council on Foreign Affairs from March 2011 until October 2014. She also served as the Eminent Persons Group representing Indonesia to the Indian Ocean Dialogue in 2015. Since 2014, Ambassador Tobing is also a lecturer for the graduate program on ASEAN diplomacy at the Paramadina University and Pelita Harapan University. Without further ado, Ambassador, I now hand over the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mbak Kartika, for your kind introduction. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, and a special hello greeting for Bapak I Gusti Agung Lesaka Puja, Executive Director of the ASEAN-IPR, and the youth participants, which I'm hoping are many this afternoon. A very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to the second session of the discussion series entitled Youth as Agents of Peace, Utilizing the Digital Platform for Narratives of Peace. As we are all aware, information communication technology, or ICT, has definitely brought a tremendous change in our lives, including our ways of thinking. At the same time, it has also created a big gap between those that are ready to seize the opportunity to effectively use ICT and those that are not. There are cases where technology is misused to trigger conflicts through such practices as cybercrimes, hoax, hate speeches, and platforms in bringing out aspirations of discrimination and intolerance. Furthermore, the current pandemic has also increased the use of the digital technologies. The trend has also shown that ICT is increasingly used by the young people around the world. As the youth is the main users of ICT, they are particularly a vulnerable sector given their need to transition to higher forms of education and also entering the workforce while still undergoing the circles of violence coming from a past conflict war zone to being exposed to the risk of human trafficking, extremism, and domestic crimes. This is just to name a few. So how do we then transform these challenging situations by using technology? During this discussion series, we will be exploring how the youth, who are in essence the driving force of technology, could contribute as agents of peace in the use of technology for peaceful purposes. We have three inspiring speakers who will share with us developments of the youth in ASEAN through the lens, for example, of the chair of SOMY, and also we will have a speaker from Asean Foundation and a third speaker representing the youth. Before I introduce the first speaker, please allow me just to kindly remind you that if you have questions, please send them or express them in a most cordial manner. And may I also request that you pose those questions in a most efficient and brief way. Thank you. Let us now move on to the first speaker. Our first speaker is Mr. KINGSADA, who is the SOMY chair from Laos PDR. Before I give the floor to Mr. KINGSADA, may I just share with you his brief CV. Mr. KINGSADA is currently the Director General, International Relations and Cooperation Department for the Lao Youth Union. Mr. KINGSADA is a graduate of the Lao National University, Faculty of Linguistics and Social, majoring in French and Spanish, and also a graduate of the National Institution of Fine Arts in Graphic Design. He has had a vast experience in dealing with the youth since 1998 until 2003, when he was part of the Francophonie International Youth Organization. From 2004 to 2006, Mr. KINGSADA was a member of the Lao Committee for UNESCO for Information Exchange. Then followed in 2007-2013 as Deputy Director of Lao Youth Media in charge of International Editorial Board. And from 2014 until 2017, he was Deputy Chief of Cabinet, Laos Central Youth Union, in charge of International Relations and ITC Division. At the same time, Mr. KINGSADA is also a writer, a columnist, and a playwright. Mr. KINGSADA will speak about the digital platforms, how they are used by the youth in Lao PDR. Mr. KINGSADA, may I pass you the screen? Thank you.
Really good afternoon. Let me check the audio. This is okay.
Yes, sir. You may proceed, please.
Okay.
Very good afternoon, Excellency Ambassador Artauli Tobing, representative of Indonesia to the ASEAN-IPR Governing Council. Distinguished guests, dear colleagues, ASEAN member state, ASEAN secretariat, and the speaker today. It is my great pleasure to be a speaker at the webinar on the theme Youth as the Agent of Peace, Utilizing Digital Platform of Narrative of Peace. On behalf of representative of Laos Youth Union and Laos Youth Nationwide, would like to sincerely extend the gratitude and appreciation to ASEAN-IPR to organize such very productive and innovative webinar. I will take my effort to share my humble experience as much as I could. So today, my presentation would be cover 3 points of highlight. The first one is Laos Youth and Laos Youth Union. Laos Youth Union are organizing structurally. The second one is the National Youth Adolescent Development Strategy. This is the first national strategy for youth in Laos PDR. And the last one is I would like to present you 2 digital related projects. That's a part of the action plan under the National Youth and Adolescent Development Strategy. Talking about Laos Youth, actually the utilizing digital platform of Laos Youth is not reached at the advanced level if we comparing to the country in the regions, especially in the field of education, entrepreneurship, and other sector. When we're talking about the peace and tolerance, the characteristic of Laos youth are originally peaceful, like ASEAN member states. They are considered to be straightforward, friendly, caring, sincere, polite, generous, and dedicated. They always show their great courtesy and respect for the elderly, senior officer, and enjoy in a very simple life with the peaceful family. That is a practice from the generation to the generation. The government takes strong effort in agenda on mobilizing the young people to inherit such the 5 traditional from previous generation by setting the curricula program, integrate with the National Youth and Adolescent Strategy Development. So peace is the fundamental of policy of Laos government, along with the supporting the ASEAN Work Plan on Youth 2021 to 2025, with its 5 priority areas, particularly the area 5, ASEAN awareness, values, and identity, which consists of 3 main sub-priorities. One is a research activity to comparing risk experience and conflict solution, conflict management, and consolidation in ASEAN activity promoting culture of peace and culture of prevention. That is the part of organized by the ASEAN-IPR today, yeah, I think. I should brief you know about the image of Laos. As you know, that's Laos population regarding the census 2015 is 7.169 million, within the young population cover 60%. That is very, very unique opportunity for creating the space for the Lao youth to actively play their role as agents of the driving force on socio-economic developments. Laos has a total area 236.800 square kilometer. Majority land is the mountainous area with the plateau, with the abundance of the rivers. That's the greatest potential of Laos, namely as the battery of ASEAN. The population density in Laos, in average, is 32 people per square kilometer. So it still lasts enough space, I think. I wonder if this reason why we can keep the social distancing quite successfully during the COVID-19 breakout. So let me present you about the Lao Youth Union organizing structure. Lao Youth Union has its organizing structure from the central down to grassroots within 4 levels: central, provincial, district, village level. Among them has the representative of 15 ethnic minority group of youth nationwide. And Youth Executive Committee in the Line Ministry, Institutes, Enterprise Sector. Recent year, Lao Youth Union will establish the National Youth Federation that definitely approach to reach more diversity of youth groups. Lao Youth Union is one of ministerial level mass organization working as the policy making level to take overall responsibility on youth nationwide, which mainly focusing on ideological education, awareness among youth and adolescents, along with the along mobilizing them to actively participating on socio-economic development under the inspiring slogan saying that where there is the hardship, youth will conquer. Where there are the challenge, youth will overcome. The Lao Youth Union has a defined subgroup of youth as follows: youth age 15 to 30, pioneer age 9 to 14, junior pioneer 6 to 8. Lao National Youth Adolescent Development Strategy comprises of 5 priority areas like ASEAN Work Plan on Youth. 1 is the health and well-being. 2 is education, sport, and training. 3, employment and entrepreneurship. 4, social protection. 5, youth engagement and participation. So, National Youth and Adolescent Development Strategy have been drafted for the first time in history of the Lao PDR, and very important strategy because Lao has a very young population, accounting for a large proportion of the population and represent the main future labor force in all areas of work. Also continue to developing National Youth Development Index, which in turn contributes to the development of the ASEAN Youth and International Youth Development Index. So, National Youth Adolescent Development Strategy as a major legislation, and following with another minor one that more focusing on analyzing digitalization for education and employment. This is the report. Youth and employment issues in Lao PDR just launched it on date 31st July 2021. In this report, it's found that the curriculum gap most identified by students, the matching between the curriculum in school and job criteria requirement. The first big gap one is the limited of English curriculum. The second one is limited the computer classes and technology uses. The third one is limited fields of study, especially the related to digital economy. And the fourth one is limited online learning. The fifth one is limited entrepreneurial subject. So if you notice on the screen, in the circle one, are all digital subjects that need to be learned by the youth. So at the moment, we are working on 2 digital related projects for youth under the Laos Youth Adolescent Development Strategy. The first project is Youth Volunteer for Hotline Counseling Service on mental and psychosocial support under the priority area 4, social protection. The second one is the Laos Youth Union IT Center on Sustainable Operation and Employment Support Program under priority area 3, employment and entrepreneurship. Under these projects, we established IEC production task force to produce awareness campaign material through the digital platform. This is the first project that we are going on right now. It's a youth volunteer on hotline counseling service on mental and psychosocial support. By the digital channel, we can touch the deeper and more diversity and complexity of youth in subgroup, especially the vulnerable group. Not only fact that we get, but also the emotion of youth, which we can touch the untouchable thing, top secret story of youth that normally we cannot do face to face, but we can do by digital platform. As the hotline counseling is very hard work, that's why we have to take time and step for screening and for the qualified counselor. Yeah. The first step we had provide the training and also following with the screening the youth volunteer for the first aid of the mental and psychological health, communication skill, data collection and analysis skill. The second one is providing some facilities, incentive support, and making the referral ring with the specialist and another related application like a noise application that I will be presenting you later. Yeah. 3, we are planning right now to establish the youth volunteer team working on hotline counseling service, but at provincial level. Make the group application of the with the NF group for dialogue group. This that's run by their own language, their own dialect. The second project, Laos Youth Union IT Center on Sustainable Operation and Employment Support Program. The main objective of this project is to improve youth employment by upgrading the job with ICT and learning through the digital channel with 2 main activities. The first activity is strengthening the capacity building. That we have 2 kinds of the training. The first training is the training of the literacy course. The second training is the TOT course. Recent year, we established 2 IT rooms for youth in school and after school at the 2 provinces where the Laos-China high-speed train passed by. That will complete end of this year. Yeah. That is the great opportunity for the youth there to upgrade themselves, to apply for the job by learning IT and also support young entrepreneur sector at the provincial level to be a part of the e-commerce project under the high-speed railway program. So the opportunity that we'll get from the high-speed railways program, the youth need to be upgrade themselves with the digital skill right now. The second one, second activity is multi-studio utilization and content production support by using the model of UCC. UCC, yes, it's UCC. It stands for User Creation Content. This is the best practice model on the communication for the vulnerable group through the digital platform, especially one of the technique that we use for the behavior chain communications. This is for the example that we produce that kind of the social media program is a cartoon online during the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, this is a cartoon that is not complete by the cartoonist, but we send through the mobile application, so the audience can put the color inside the picture as you see on the screen. Yeah, you just see the color for the background only, but for the dressing and the color of the people, we let the audience to color by themselves. Such kind of we make the audience to get involved in the participation on this such kind of the cartoon. Yeah. The next one that I would like to present you is the UCC. It's what is the production process of UCC? So here I would like to show short video that promoting the audience to continue to participating in the production part of the video. Yeah. This is example to make the video clip for UCC. The producer will make it for episode 1 only. And then the following week, making another video clip to promote and convince the contribution of the target audience to make it for the next episode. It means that the target audience will make the episode 2. In this way, the audience get more involved on production part with the technical support of the producer. The main purpose of this of using this way is to make the target group find the solution to solve their own problem by themselves, with the creating the character in the film, in the video, by themselves. Yeah. As you see on the screen, you see the ethnic young woman produced the drama clip specific for her community for the episode 2. After the episode 1 that had made by the producer and display on the mobile application. Yeah. So let me show you. I think I have to stop share and then we can see the video clip.นี่แหละมีลูกสาวนะมันก็เป็นแล้วนี่แหละ
เป็นเท่าใดข่อยก็บ่อยากมีแต่มันหักมีหั่นเด้
มึงก็ควรเอาคนต่างประเทศเอาคนเฮาเองมันมีแต่ทุกข์
เจ้าฮู้บ่ค่อยบ่มีเงินแล้วเดี๋ยวนี้
กะแบ้ที่เจ้าเลี้ยงหั่นคือบ่ขายมึงออกโรงเรียนให้มันแล้วซะ
So this video is just made to convince the audience to continue the second episode, because as I mentioned earlier, we try to make the video to for the producer. They make the first episode, but the second episode will be made by the audience. Let me show you the second video clip. That's this we call a noise application. This is the first application in Lao language. Yeah. This is utilizing the interaction communication to promote the sexual and productive health and gender life. Yeah, please.
สบายดีข่อยชื่อน้อยข่อยเป็นตัวแทนของเยาวชนและวัยหนุ่มหญิงในสปป.ลาวมื้อนี้ทุกปัญหาของวัยหนุ่มหญิงและชายจะได้รับคำตอบทั้งง่ายสะดวกโดยการนำใช้แอปน้อยอยากรู้แม่นแอปพลิเคชันซึ่งสร้างขึ้นสำหรับวัยหนุ่มในสปป.ลาวเพื่อให้ข้อมูลพื้นฐานเกี่ยวกับปัญหาต่างๆที่เกี่ยวข้องกับสุขภาพทั่วไปสุขภาพเจริญพันธุ์และสุขภาพทางเพศบทบาทหญิงชายโภชนาการและทักษะชีวิตโดยรูปแบบเป็นลายลักษณ์อักษรเสียงพร้อมด้วยภาพเคลื่อนไหวอื่นๆ
เอ๊ะแล้วแอปที่ว่านี้เราสามารถติดตั้งได้ด้วยวิธีใด
ง่ายๆเลยเพียงแต่ทำอีกให้เข้าไปที่ Play Store ซึ่งสามารถดาวน์โหลดได้ทั้งเทิงมือถือและแท็บเล็ตที่เป็นระบบของ Android 2. ให้พิมพ์คำว่าน้อยอยากฮู้ NOIYAK HOO ใส่ปองค้นหาจากนั้นก็กดปุ่มค้นหา 3. หลังจากเห็นรูปของแอปพลิเคชันแล้วให้กดปุ่ม Install เพื่อดาวน์โหลดเอาแอปพลิเคชันเมื่อเปิดเข้าหน้าแอปหน้าต่างหลักที่มีรูปภาพสีสันสดใสก็จะขึ้นมาซึ่งในหน้าหลักนี้ก็จะมี2ปุ่มหลักๆก็คือคำถามและคำตอบเมื่อกดเข้าไปในแต่ละหมวดก็จะมีคำถามและคำตอบต่างๆให้เราได้เลือกพร้อมทั้งมีภาพการ์ตูนและเสียงเพื่อง่ายในการเข้าใจเนื้อหาต่างๆ
ท่านหมอการมีประจำเดือนแม่นหยังการมีประจำเดือนเป็นกระบวนการทางธรรมชาติ
โอ้คักแท้ข่อยจะได้โหลดแอปนี้มาใช้ก่อน
แม่แล้ววัยหนุ่มคือพวกเขาก็สามารถค้นหาคำตอบของปัญหาต่างๆที่ของเข้าใจได้ง่ายๆเพียงแต่ใช้แอปพลิเคชันนี้มาดาวน์โหลดแอปน้อยอยากฮู้เพื่อซอกฮู้ทุกปัญหาของวัยหนุ่มเฮาน้ำกันเด้อ
So thank you very much. My presentation ended by displaying two video clips that we are working on this. Right now, for the Noi Yak Hu is very well known among the young people, especially the one who live in the remote area. The young people, they cannot speak Lao language. They can enjoy playing on the mobile application. That's we promoting the sexual reproductive health and gender rights. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. KINGSADA, on your very comprehensive expose of the situation of the youth in Lao PDR. And I'm really amazed because you started by saying that the digital platform in Lao PDR is not so advanced, but it's really amazing as to how Lao PDR has been able to empower the youth through the Lao Youth Union and how active they have become as caring members of the community as to what you have shown us earlier, and also all the IT products that the youth have also produced. Thank you very much, Mr. KINGSADA.
Thank you.
I would also like to welcome the distinguished members of the Governing Council and Advisory Board, members of the ASEAN-IPR, and also the members of the ASEAN Women for Peace Registry to join us this afternoon. Now I would like to invite the second speaker. His name is Mr. Mahmudi Yusbi, or he prefers to be called Mr. Mahmudi. He is the head of the program for the Asean Foundation and is responsible for designing, mobilizing resources, and overseeing the foundation's program implementation in 10 ASEAN member states. Prior to his present work, Mr. Mahmudi served as a project officer and technical specialist for the UNDP Indonesia, managing South-South and triangular cooperation, access to justice, democracy, and sustainable development goals programs across Indonesia. Mr. Mahmudi has earned a bachelor's degree in education from the Islamic University of Indonesia, Araniri Banda Aceh, and a master's degree in international development studies from Chulalongkorn University. And he has also studied public sector leadership at Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. Mr. Mahmudi will share with us the types of creative projects that the ASEAN Foundation has done and how they have empowered the ASEAN youth through its creative products. Mr. Mahmudi, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Tobing, and I think thanks very much for introducing me to the audience. I would like to share my screens now. Yeah, I hope everyone can see my screen, right? Yeah, good. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and ambassadors, the moderator of the webinar, Ambassador Tobing, as well as the DG Somkiao, who is the chair for the ASEAN Senior Officials Meeting on Youth, as well as the executive directors of the ASEAN-IPR. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate everyone for the ASEAN Day on 8 August 2021. I think we are still within the the inspirations of the ASEAN Day. The August it's a momentum month for the ASEAN countries. I mean, many countries will celebrate their independent days this month as well, like Singapore, Indonesia, as well as the Malaysia as well. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what is the ASEAN Foundations is doing, in the regions, and we are going to actually present a little bit about our projects, as well as how the youth in ASEAN actually can play their part and also take part to contribute in the ASEAN community building, which because youth are quite big in the regions. They are almost 30%, I think, of the total populations in ASEAN. As for the ASEAN Foundations, I think if some of you probably has interfaced or intervened with the ASEAN Foundations. So we are an organization from and for the people of ASEAN, and we implement projects through many platforms. So for instance, we implement projects through the program thematic areas around art and cultures, community building, educations, and the media as well. So the ASEAN Foundations was established by the ASEAN leaders during the 31st, I think during the 30th anniversary commemorative summit in Kuala Lumpur on 15 December 1997. And ASEAN Foundations also we takes a pivotal role to fulfill the gaps as one of the ASEAN bodies. We are tasked to support the ASEAN community building, mainly promoting awareness, doing the interactions, and also run many development programs for the people of ASEAN. So when it comes to the program of the ASEAN Foundations, so when we promote, although the ASEAN Foundation's big mandate is to promote the awareness of ASEAN, but we also care about we also care for the development of the youth as well. For instance, many of our program at the moment, we are actually preparing the youth for their future, the youth to be future ready. So mainly like developing their skills. So for instance, I think like the leadership skills at the moment are quite important as well. Technical capacities, and I believe is also growing. The friendship and network around the regions among the youth are quite important, and that's where they will feel their ASEAN connectedness, among their peers, as well as build a stronger resilience for the ASEAN youth around the regions as well. And that's why the ASEAN Foundations also we implement through our various projects. We actually were able to reach out and empower around 74,532 people and youth in the regions. That's across the board of the 7 years of the ASEAN Foundations, project implementations. But we are now more than 20 years organizations already. And I think the numbers keep growing along the years since we are currently implementing many projects that also involve a lot of youths in the regions. I'm going to walk you through a little bit about the ASEAN Foundations program for the youth in the regions, where you also will be able to take part. So the first program is, we call it the AFMAM, the ASEAN Foundations Model ASEAN Meeting. These programs enable the youth to understand the ASEAN diplomacy and how decision makers of the ASEAN member states, address regional issues by involving them in authentic simulations, exercises. It also promotes the regional friendship and develops skills, negotiations, public speaking, and consensus building. We believe that this program, there's a huge opportunity for the youth as well to create an impact at the ASEAN and the national level. Since this program also engaging youths and developing their appreciations of the ASEAN. So the youth will play their role as the ministers, as the leaders of ASEAN, but at the same time, they discuss many the topics as well, which includes the peace around the region. So it could be a diplomacy, it could be, the good governance, as well as the issues around the ASEAN regions. So the program also allows the youth to create their mini AFMAM, mini model ASEAN meeting in their respective countries. So many of our alumni at the moment, they organize their own mini versions of model ASEAN meeting across the regions, and so that they spread the word of ASEAN to the local level as well, and how we localize ASEAN among the youth at the moment. And then we also have a program, we call it the ASEAN Dataset Explorers. So this is where we are going to unlock the youth potential and create a positive impact in Southeast Asia. So we have educated around 16,000 young people across 370 institutions of higher learning in 10 ASEAN member states through this program. We train the youth, through the data analytic skills, and afterwards the youth will be competed among them through the data analytic competitions. But at the same time, the youth also will be sensitized with the social issues as well. They will actually assess the data around the sustainable development goals. And afterwards, we will compete it at the national levels and then at the regional level as well. So this is how we prepare the youths to be future ready as well. And then we also implement another program. We call it the ASEAN Digital Innovation Programs. We work for this program with Microsoft. This is a program where we have reached around 30,000 youths around the region. I think the early of this year, we managed to reach out almost 30,000 youths since the project implementations around 2018. So the program basically equipped the youth with the digital skills to enable them to thrive in the fourth industrial revolution. So to achieve the objective, we actually work with many of our local partners to reach out the underserved youth. We call it the underserved youth that are located, in the rural areas in ASEAN, and so that we were able to reach out those youths and be able to develop their capacity so that they can be ready for their future, aspirations as well. The Asean Foundations also, has a programs where we are actually equip the youth and inspire youth across 10 ASEAN member states to be a positive force for change by providing a platform to learn, contribute, advocate solutions to the development issues. Through this program, we call it the Empowering Youth Across ASEAN program, a program that we work with the Maybank. It's a private public partnership with the bank. So the program seeks to identify around 100 entrepreneurial-minded individuals between ages 19 to 35 years old across ASEAN to take part in 1 week intensive capacity building workshops and orientations workshop that usually we will do it across the ASEAN member state. And afterwards, the youth will design a project, and afterwards we will provide them with a seed grant, and they go to the communities and they implement the community projects in the community. So the project around educations, around environments, around art and cultures, as well as around community buildings as well. So if you see in the pictures, this is one of the projects that the youth we deployed to Ande districts in Flores, where they actually implement the education's literacy for the young students in Ande, as well as to teach the parents actually on how to read out loud to their children in the schools. So basically, there are other projects as well that we implement in Cambodia, for instance, in Batabang province. We implement a project as well in Takeo province as well in across Cambodia. And also in Malaysia, we went to Sabah, for instance, to do this project. So the youths were deployed across ASEAN, and they actually built an impact around the community. So the ASEAN Youth, I think we also have a media program where we actually, this is a platform for the Asean Foundations to spread the ASEAN awareness to the ASEAN youth as well as the ASEAN people around the regions. So back in 2018, we also do a project on youth celebrating diversity to promote cultures of peace and tolerance as well. I think it's quite amazing to see how youth play their role in actually contributing and diversity around the region and promote cultures of peace and tolerance. I think if you're interested in this video, you can visit Azan Foundations YouTube channels, and then you can see a video. I think there are 10 to 20 videos about these topics. So I'll be quick. I think presenting my project as well. So another program is we also work on the ASEAN Youth Social Journalism. So for those youth who are interested in social journalism, this is another platform that we invite you to participate. So youth social journalism is more on the youths to take part in the project. So meaning that we are going to train you on how to be a good social journalist, and but at the same time create a project in your local community as well. But I think last but not least, I think we have the two last projects that we are currently implementing as well, the ASEAN Social Enterprise Development Program, and also the Bridges to the Futures ASEAN. This is the last project we work with our partners Google to implement. Actually, we are doing research at the moment around the regions, what is actually the demands and the supply skills that were needed by the companies and the youth as well. So we are going to match the supplies and demand, for the youth and the companies to find their jobs in the future. So talking about entrepreneurship, I believe it correlates also with the ASEAN to generate both to generate peace both at the national and the regional level as well. And because of this, so I believe that entrepreneurships, I believe that it promotes sustainable peace, but it at the same time is also promoting ASEAN in identify, establishment, and strengthens the cohesions between ASEAN, ASEAN youths as well, and ASEAN member state. For ASEAN, I think developing that is currently the country is mostly developing and expanding. I think economic prosperity is one of the strong common interests between the country, and entrepreneurial initiative can create site for this. So I think before I end my presentation, so we would like to highlight a few digital platform that the Asean Foundations are currently using. So amidst the pandemic, we also we Asean Foundations we seek to maximize the potential of the digital technology and be more connected with the youth, because we are thinking of youth, and we use Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok actually to make the youth as a center, for the substance as well. And recently we also launched the podcast Thinking of Youth, where we also provide youth with a platform to exchange and grasp ideas. So if you're interested in our podcast, you can visit Spotify and listen many topics that we are discussing with the youth, and we are open as well to talk about the peace around the regions with the youth as well. I think that will be all from my side, and I would like to pass the screen back to Ambassador Arta as the moderators. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahmudi, for sharing with us everything that the ASEAN Foundation has done in terms of empowering the youth and in terms of also strengthening their skills, whether it is in personal skills, it is also strengthening entrepreneurship, and also, of course, related to the digital technology. This is good for the youth because the opportunities are there for them and they just have to grab it. Thank you. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, now we will invite the last but not least speaker. His name is Ahmad Afryan. He prefers to be called Rian. He is the Program Development Manager of the ASEAN Youth Organization, or AYO, one of the largest youth organizations in ASEAN with, I believe, about 450,000 members, if I'm not mistaken. Rian is in charge of designing and conducting projects to empower ASEAN youth. He has over 4 years experience in participating in dialogue and research in the field of peace and security, both at the local and regional levels. As an activist, he also serves as a youth trainer at the Peace Academy and an agent of Peace Leader South Kalimantan of Peace Generation Indonesia, where he recently received the nomination for Agent of Peace of the Year 2021. Congratulations, Rian. Rian also holds a Bachelor in International Relations, concentrating on international security and peace from Brawijaya University. Rian will speak about the role of the youth, the role of the young and youth organizations in promoting the culture of peace in the region in the digital platforms. The screen is yours, Rian.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for such a warm introduction. A very good afternoon, everyone. Your Excellencies, distinguished participants, of course, honorable speakers, Mr. KINGSADA, Mr. Mahmudi, and of course, everyone who attended the sessions, whether in the Zoom meeting room or live from YouTube channel of ASEAN Institute for Peace and Reconciliations. It is indeed my honor and privilege to be invited and to represent the biggest youth non-profit organization in the region, ASEAN Youth Organization. And, related to what Mr. KINGSADA and also Mr. Mahmudi have shared, for example, like Mr. KINGSADA has started his journey related to youth since, if I'm not mistaken, 1998. Even I was born in 1996. So you can see the gap between me and also Mr. KINGSADA, but I do really appreciate, and I am really honored to be invited to this very amazing avenues for the youth in order to express and to convey our message related to youth related activism. And of course, Mr. Mahmudi, we can also see that he is really knowledgeable related to the technology because he could use so many Zoom features if I wasn't really able right now to do those things as well. So I learned a lot from our amazing speakers for the past at least 30 minutes. So allow me to do the share screen related to what will be discussed for the next at least 15 minutes related to the how does the role of young people and youth organizations on promoting culture of peace in the region through digital platforms. So Your Excellencies and everyone, allow me to share one of the impactful quotes by Mahatma Gandhi related to he has said at least like 90 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, in 1931, he said that if we are to reach a real peace in this world, we shall begin with children. So this quote speaks so much related to it is very essential to achieve peace in this world by involving the younger generations. So although until now we are still in the process of actually involving more young people in the peace building process, but the current trends shows that there will be many more opportunities for the youth play important and strategic role in peace building. So the question may arise, why then youth? Why? What sets youth apart from other generations? Why it should begin with the younger generations? So allow me to start the discussions for our discussion for the next few minutes related to how I want to use the model approach from one of the TEDx speakers, well-known TEDx speakers. He used this approach, start with why, then how and what. So for the why, we also need to understand why then youth, why peace narrative, and why digital platforms. It is really essential for us, in order to, in the hope that after this discussion, we both understand why it is important to involve young people, then why it is important to narrate the peace values using the digital platform through young activism. So as we may see on the screen, so the youth has the power at least 3 C's. I quote these 3 C's from one of the books written in Bahasa Indonesia called Millennials, terkait dengan millennials. So related to the millennials, so there are 3 power of youth, which is creativity, connection, and confidence. So it means with our desire to strive for more, willingness to be seen as responsible and capable, we are able to really share the innovation, fresh ideas through the youthness. So we can explore many things with our creativity, but at the same time, we also can really reach out for bigger audience by the connection. We are also understand that we live in the 21st century. So we are bombarded with a lot of the digital technologies, platforms in order for us to really connect 24 hours in a day. So we are able to really expand the connections through digital platforms. And of course, by these aspects, we gain more confidence, as I've said before, that we are willing to strive for more, and our really big willingness to be seen as responsible and capable really boosts our confidence and embracing the youthness. And next, I would like also to highlight that one of the things youth always associated is that youth seen as the leaders of tomorrow or the future leaders. But as I've seen for the past few years, and one of my currently main activities in ASEAN Youth Organization, I see a lot of young potentials for them to be able to lead so many activism, so many, related to the how can we overcome many challenges, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic situation. So I think it is also important for us to prioritize that youth are the leaders of today. So the distinction between these two dichotomy between youth are the leaders of tomorrow and today, would like to say to you that it is really important for us to acknowledge what the youth has to offer and what we can do with the older generations. And hopefully with the 1/3 ASEAN population is youth, we could be able to really express our concerns and to be able to work together in a very collaborative way in order to tackle so many challenges in the region. Next, I would also like to highlight related to then why peace narratives, why is it important for us to discuss this afternoon? The thing is, most of the youth associated whether either he or she become the victim or the perpetrator. So whether he or she need to be supported or need to be stopped. So youth are often marginalized and considered vulnerable. But the thing is, in the reality, we also has so much potential, and I've said before that we shows that we are able to expand and also to really use our potential and our power in order to create and to promote the narrative of peace. So I would like also to over the new narratives that I will also talk a little bit more later, that youth need to consider as agents of peace. Because with youthful energy and capabilities and ability of adaptation to new technological trends, for example, youth could act as mediators perhaps, or community mobilizers, humanitarian workers, we are able to use our power in a very positive way so that we could be able to contribute more in the peace building efforts. And last, in the why layers of this model approach that I use is then why digital platforms came into our discussion right now. Because the fact that as the data that I got, that more than 40 million, the number of people in most of ASEAN countries are going online for the first time in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the data then underscores that the importance of technology in benefiting young people in creating more opportunity in the developing, whether it's skills or whether it's related to knowledge and ideas in easier way. So that's why I then said to you that related to this one of the positive impact when we are using the digital platform, it's just one click away. You can access anything online. For example, like this, I am right now in South Kalimantan province, Indonesia, and I believe Ambassador Artauli Tobing in Jakarta and Mr. KINGSADA in Laos PDR and Mr. Mahmudi perhaps in Indonesia as well, we're able to connect at the very right now, in the very right times, thanks to the technology and digital platform. So it gives us easier, faster, and cheaper platform for us to really expand our connection. And related to digital platform itself, we can categorize digital platform into at least 4 categories between social media. It's of course related to Twitter or perhaps TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and so on and so forth. Or it could also related to the knowledge platform, perhaps like Udemy, if you may say, or related to, for example, like in Southeast Asia, Ruang Guru, and other part of knowledge platform. And media sharing related to YouTube or perhaps Spotify, and the services platform related to the online shopping services. So these are the things that we are dealing every day. For example, like one of the usual things me and my friends to do when we are going to restaurant or cafe, one of the essential things to do first is most of the young people is looking for the Wi-Fi password. So after that, we then go through the menu. So it is something that we are live in the culture where we are really bombarded with the online responsibility for us to be need always online. Otherwise, we acknowledge by our friends to be doesn't really updated or become one of the really left behind in terms of using the digital platform. So moving right along, I would like to invite all the participants. Then we need also to understand after why is it important for us to understand why the youth why peace narrative and why using the digital platform. And we also need to understand and how can we use those things into more implementable and applicable things to do as whether you are as youth or young or youth organizations or perhaps the other generations. So I would also like to touch upon briefly related to the hashtag youth for peace, hashtag impact lives, and also hashtag youth lead. So as perhaps we already knew that in December 2015, the United Nations Security Council adopted the groundbreaking and historic resolutions on youth, peace, and security. So in a sense, where we are dealing with a lot of things, that this gives us the platform to really understand that the youth are recognized and also get the legitimation and get the new narratives in order for us to really understand that we have the positive contribution to the justice and also reconciliations. And also I would like to touch upon briefly related to the ASEAN Youth Organization as the leading youth nonprofit organization in the region. We have, as Ambassador Artauli Tobing have said, we have over 450,000 AYU communities with 15,000 active volunteers. And we have also, conducting various events. Hopefully, we also could categorize this into very creative and also innovative events. For example, AYU Live Instagram, AYU Podcast, and also AYUpedia related to the content making. And in these sessions, I would like also take the opportunity to share to you that AYU is also invited by the ASEAN-IPR to take a meaningful engagement on youth, peace, and youth tech project. We will be further contributing the spirit of peace activism. It's also related to the promoting the narrative of peace. And of course, we are really excited to take part of the youth tech project. We do really hope through this project, we could be able to really spread the message of peace to young people across the nations and also across the region. So I would like also to inform not only the participant, but I guess it's also related to the honorable speakers, that we can use these participatory practices. We use the three lens of youth participations. We can identify youth as beneficiaries, or we also can identify youth as partners, and also we can support the youth as leaders. So we do really hope that perhaps in the near future, we could be able to collaborate more on these issues related to peace activism journey. So the thing that the last layer that I would like to share to you, that is related to youth meaningful engagement. It is important for us to understand that the representations and the inclusivity is really needed to be prioritized when it comes, we are talking related to youth. So I wanted to present to you the diverse of youth groups. So perhaps the other speakers or perhaps the participant could be able to identify. We have so many meaningful youth groups related to the things that what we need to do related to the peace activism. And I also want to share to you a little bit tips for the youth in order to really maximizing in utilizing the digital technology. We could use many creative and also innovative ways. For example, like in content making, or perhaps related to the ASEAN-IPR, start to making the Instagram filter. It is one of, I think, the things that we also youth can do related to how can we share and to spread the message of peace and to build the culture of peace using the very innovative and also creative ways. And also we can do the podcast, or we can create memes, or perhaps we can also touch on the providing education through webinar or workshops. So I would like also touch upon briefly related to the digital consent. There are at least two highlighted issues that AYO believes related to the how ASEAN youth perceive in a very digital world right now. It's related to fake news and also related to inner peace. These are the things that we also need to consider discussion further. Due to time limitations, I would like to wrap up my presentations to share one of the powerful quotes by A.J. Maste. There is no way to peace, and peace should be recognized is the way. It is remind us that it is also understand, and it's also important for us to understand that speaking about peace, it is a very dynamic process. So we cannot just hope that in 2 years we can achieve a peaceful world. It is a lifetime work, and hopefully we could be able to always collaborate between as young people or the older generations to be able to always engage youth in a very meaningful way. So that would be all for me. I would like to pass the screen back to Ambassador Artauli Tobing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rian, for your inspiring presentation, and very much a reflection and illustration of how the youth sees the world, and how the youth sees technology, and I think an awareness that the youth is really leaders of the present as well as the future. And it's good that you opened up and used the words like partnership, because I think you're not an exclusive generation, because we need to interact and we need to build, try to build this community into a better one. Okay, thank you, Rian. Distinguished participants, we have heard all three inspiring speakers. And from what I understand, there are still no questions in the chat box. So I'm taking the privilege of starting the ball rolling, if I may. Since our main objective is to link peace, youth, and digital and technology, ITC. I'm just curious to know, in your experiences from Mr. KINGSADA, Mr. Mahmudi, and also Rian, how much knowledge or how much is there an awareness of the issue of peace by from the youth? Because when you talk about technology, you don't have to ask that. They know it by heart. Although there are, you have mentioned, Rian, the qualms or the challenges of technology for those that are using technologies for the wrong reasons, and how we can manage that. But I'm just curious to know, how much does the youth know about peace? And because we're trying to transform this, the cruelness that happens in technology, and transform them into peaceful narratives. So let me start that question. And could you perhaps share your views on that based on your experiences? I'm open. Who would like to start? Is anyone of you wish to start? I see Mr. KINGSADA thinking seriously. Would you like to start? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency Ambassador Artauli Tobing, for raising up the point. I think very important point that you raised. So in international level also, we also discuss about this, and this is the main issues we are discussed among the government officials about how the youth know about the peace because peace is the traditional of our ancestor. Yeah. So we actually, our generation, the previous generation have already practiced about the peace and tolerance already. But now is the time of the digitalization. So somehow the digital channel also the changing the behavior of the young people. So if you look at the negative view of the digitalization or the platform, so we be thinking about how to use the digital channel to create awareness of young people to follow up our previous generation that we have very good, very fine tradition is the peace. Yeah. So we are talking among our government officers right now. That's why my presentation that I presented, we have two projects that related to the digital platform. The one is we have the ICT center. Now we establish another ICT room at the remote area province. Yeah. Because government try to use this channel to create awareness of young people to keep the verified traditional of the ancestor. Yeah. So talking about the digitalization is we see the two view is negative and positive. So we try to turn into the positive rather than the negative. But we have to take time, as I mentioned earlier, take a long step to do that, because we have to study more about the psychology of the young people. That is, I think, regionally, maybe we can share the one who working for the digitalization, digital skill. It's not the young people, but the one, even the senior or elderly, yeah, but they are working for the young people. We can share experience about this issue, I think. This is my point of view. Thank you very much.
I think you're muted, Ambassador.
Sorry, I just had a digital hiccup there. I didn't know how to unmute. Mr. KINGSADA, thank you for your for sharing with us. And you have said that there may be a bit of a longer step to understand the psychology of the young, because there seems to be, the digitalization seems to be overtaking events. Now, could we hear from maybe Mahmudi or Rian, whoever wishes to start first?
Yeah,
thank you.
Probably I can start first, and then I think Rian afterward can follow.
Sure,
Well,
sure.
yeah,
Please,
I think it's an interesting questions, ambassadors. I believe that with the digital has been the main, I think the main tools during the pandemic. I think there are many, I think I would say like all youth who are accessing this platform, right? And it is not only their knowledge about peace, but the knowledge about safety, their safety as well when accessing the online platform. I think this is also something that we need to find out. So if, oops, sorry. So from the Azan Foundations perspective, I think when it comes to ASEAN youth knowledge on peace, I think quantity wise it is difficult to measure. But I think I would like to draw back our projects on ASEAN Youth Video Contest that we organized in 2018. with the topic promoting culture of peace and diversities around the region. We receive around 122 videos from the youth who are actually wants to take part in the projects. I think measuring from that numbers, I think we already having a good baseline that the youth actually they are quite interested to learn more about the culture of peace or peace issues around the regions, in particular those who actually live in the country that prone to conflict. For instance, like where I come from, I come from Aceh, so I live in the conflict for 30 to I think around more than 30 years, living in the conflict until we have this peace, agreement back in 2004 after the tsunami. But again, and then I think the platform that we are going to provide for the youth are quite important. I think those platforms need to be accessible as well. So we need to think of what about those youth who are in the rural areas, for instance, those who are not able to access the internet. I think we need to reach out like many different channels, like radio, for instance, even at the moment, Facebook. Also, they have like a program where the youth could access their platform without a quota. For instance, I think this is something that we need to expose to the youth, in particular those underserved youth that live around not for in the city areas, to learn more about the peace issues, and most importantly, I think the platform that are currently being implemented by ASEAN, by Azan Foundations, by the ASEAN Youth Organizations, ASEAN-IPR. I think those are very important to reach out to those who are not reachable at the moment in the rural areas. I think I will stop there, and I would listen more from the other speakers as well.
Thank you, Mahmudi. What you're saying is there is enough interest from the youth in the issues of peace, but what we need is to reach out through especially to those people who need these digital platforms. Okay, let's have Rian. Let's have Rian's views on this, please. The screen is yours.
Thank you so much, Your Excellencies. It is very interesting you to ask these questions, because I myself, as the ASEAN youth, also recognize that most of the young people in our region still have a lot of room to be improved related to our knowledge in terms of peace issues. For example, like for the youth, we are often categorize peace as only related to the end of the war or the end of violence. In fact, when we are dig deeper related to peace studies, we also could find not only negative peace, but also positive peace. For example, like related to the tolerance issues, or perhaps related to the empathy, critical thinking. For example, like this, allow me to share my screens. I have shared this also related to 12 basic values of peace, from accepting ourselves until apologize. The key point to remember is the content and how we make the narratives of peace should be relatable to the daily lives our to youth. So since peace is not only limited to the end of war and violence, we also need to bring more relatable content. For example, like gender differences, or perhaps celebrating diversity of because ASEAN home with so many cultures and also languages. So the thing is, yes, the homework is still a lot, but I think the trend is getting better, since we've seen so many movements related to peace led by the youth as well. I see some of my friends as well joining our webinar today. They shown their peace activism and youth-led peace activism. So I think the trend is getting better, Your Excellencies. But it is up to us then from the ASEAN Youth Organization, from the ASEAN-IPR, ASEAN Foundations, and Mr. KINGSADA and team to really wrap the message of peace to be more relatable for the youth. For example, like this from 12 basic values of peace. I guess that would be all from me. Back to you, Your Excellencies.
Thank you, Rian. So your suggestion is to bring more relatable contents of peace to the youth. Okay, well, thank you very much. It's a good start off. I have a question. I think it could be a follow-up question from Ambassador Kamsia. She is the Malaysian representative to the ASEAN-IPR Governing Council. Her question is, this is for the three of you. What is the biggest mistake the older generation commit into trying to resolve conflict and maintain peace? That's a tough one, but a challenging one, but inspiring one. So what is the biggest mistake the older generation commit into trying to resolve conflict and maintain peace? Who would like to start? Can I start the other way around now? Can I start with the youth, with the youngest?
Well, you put me on the spot, Your Excellency. Well, anyway, speaking related to the youth, I believe that I saw the previous generations still see us, for example, like whether our sin as the beneficiaries or the perpetrator of peace, as I've shared on my previous discussions, presentations. So given the fact related to that, I believe that it needed to be stopped right today. And I believe since ASEAN Regional Forum, like I guess on the 6th August 2021, has adopted joint statement on promoting youth peace security agenda. I believe in our region, the trend to really involve young people in peace building efforts is getting effective, and also getting towards youth meaningful engagement that I've shared to you in the previous presentations. So to conclude my answer to Her Excellency's questions, I do really need to highlight that it is really important, the support and the welcome gesture by the older generations to the younger generations that have shown by the ASEAN-IPR itself, since Your Excellencies Ambassador Artauli Tobing have shown really enthusiastic and also support for the ASEAN youth organizations. I think it's really a good point for us to really include youth in the more strategic peace building efforts. They would be all from me, Your Excellencies.
Could I invite Mr. Mahmudi?
Yeah, thank you very much, ambassadors, and also the questions from Ambassador Kamsia. I think it's difficult if we are going to put a scapegoat, right? The older generations on whose mistake actually, but what I would like to emphasize here is actually maybe the neglections. I mean, our older generations neglect the youth for quite a long time already, and involve them into a peace process and peace, and any activities around peace, consult them. I think our older generations, maybe they are late in terms of awaken themselves. When they know that the youth need to be involved as early as possible in any issues that relevant to their life. I think issues of peace that are quite relevant to the life of the young peoples, right? When the policymakers create a policies that involve the youth, I think this is where the youth are as the anchor, I believe, of this, of these issues. I think they know what to actually what's to voice out to the older generations as well. But I believe nowadays is inevitable, for the youth to be involved in the peace process, and because I read a lot of news as well about this, and in the last 10 15 years, I think there are more, I wouldn't say the older generations, but there are more organizations, governments at the global levels, like the UN, for instance. They started to involve youth, consult youth in this important topics, even in ASEAN as well, and that's what the ASEAN-IPR is all about. I think you also engaging youth a lot on and educating them on peace, and designing a project around these areas as well. The ASEAN Foundations also, we play some roles in this, in these topics as well. ASEAN youth organizations, they also play their part, and I think in ASEAN, although we move a little bit slow, but I think we start to see this progress, where many ASEAN leaders at the moment, they start to recognize the youth involvement, and consult the youth, do a dialogue with the youth, in terms of these issues as well. And back in 2017, the ASEAN Foundations, I think with Temasek, we organized one ASEAN community forums with the as Rajaratnam endowment. We actually invited the faith-based organizations, those organizations that involve around peace, and ask them to dialogue with the senior officials meetings, ASEAN senior officials, and youth were there. I think it was a good start, but then there was many follow-up activities as well that's being done by ASEAN. And I recall that next year, when Cambodia also will chair ASEAN, they also will organize this ASEAN Youth Dialogue. I think this topic are quite important, and as now it's growing and being recognized by many stakeholders already. And I believe we have made a good progress, and it's not time to put a scapegoat and to our older generations, but let's have a good hand in hand, to actually contribute to these issues together and involve the youth as well. I'll pass the screen back to ambassadors.
Thank you, Mahmudi. So you do see there's a kind of synergy between both generations, bringing in the youth, right? Okay. Mr. KINGSADA, could we hear your views on this, please?
Thank you very much, Excellency Ambassador. Actually, I totally agree with the two speakers about your response for this question. Anyway, just from my point of view, I think first of thing we should know about the definition of the peace between the old generation and present generation. Regarding to my homeland, the definition of peace in the for the old generation, we're talking about only we have to keep quiet, stay, respect the elderly. Just it doesn't mean that the definition of the peace for the old generation. But at the present, I think it's a difference. Why it's different? Because it's the type of digitalization. So we should study this one. That's why, as I mentioned earlier, we have to study about the psychology of youth first. because different generation, different the definition of peace, a different of psychology. First thing I think we should learn about that. So regarding the ASEAN Work Plan on Youth 2021 to 2025, in the priority area 5, we have a 5, a 4. Yeah, we have youth engagement and participation. That's, in this area, we're talking about how to make a voice of youth to be heard at the policy making level. So in this platform, the old generation can learn, can hear the voice of young people. The young people also learn from the old generation. So if we close this gap, I think we know each other better, and we can find a better solution. This is my personal point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your open-mindedness, because as you said, the older generation should also listen to the younger generation. Okay, interesting. I have another question from the YouTube. Let me read it to you. One of the biggest barriers to intergenerational collaborations for our region is the strong culture of respect for the elderly. Elders are heavily involved in decision-making process. How can we ensure the youth's active involvement in the peace process, and how can we transform the stereotypes surrounding young people as troublemakers with lack of experience or qualifications? How do we address that while promoting intergenerational collaboration in the issue of ICT? So how we change the elders' mindset towards the young. Okay. There are quite a number of challenging questions. It's kind of heavy, yeah, but very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody wish to start?
Yeah, probably I can actually
Yes,
give it a go to these questions. I think it is quite important for all of us, you know, actually not only the older generations, but also the young people itself, to give a good, you know, I think to give a good examples to the audience, to people around where we live, actually, or if we live in Indonesia, probably you know, to our people in Indonesia. I think that's quite important, to give some examples that youth are actually, they are actually agent of change, you know, and they have capability to actually become anyone they want, you know. I think for the older generation itself, and I would probably, I think the government also will play a role here, like for instance, to expose and to bring up the youth who are success is quite important. Like for instance, there are many good examples around the world. Like there are youth who become a prime ministers, you know, there are youth who become a ministers, like, you know, what happened in Malaysia before. There's a minister of youth who are actually within the age of 25 years old, you know, and also maybe around across the globe, there are many youth CEO as well, that lead the companies into a global market. And I think those youths are quite important as a champions to show to the world that they are capable people, and I believe it will resonate as well to other youth, and that's why here the digital will play a good mediators, you know, a good platform to show to the world that the youth are actually capable, have good capacities, and to actually play an important role in building the peace, and also for the older generations also, I think it will be also important to keep up with the technology, like what the ambassador mentions before, right? I think during the pandemic, I think the digital technologies are on demand, and people, you cannot skip it, like it or not, you have to use it, and that's why I think regardless of the generations, you have to use it, and there you actually can be connected. I think the gaps will not be there anymore, like what I think Afryan mentioned before. Like we can connect it, regardless where you are. I'm in Aceh at the moment, Afryan in Kalimantan, DG Somkiao actually in Laos, and you're in Jakarta. I think we are connected. We don't have these barriers anymore, right? So I mean, me and Afryan, I'm still considering myself as a youth as well. I'm not 40 years old yet, so and we can actually connect it with you and DG Somkiao very easily, and we can speak about issues around youth and in a fun way. And I think this is actually is quite important. Yeah, and then I'll pass it the screen to other speakers who would like to add to my response as well.
Okay. Yes. Mr. KINGSADA or Rian? Mr. KINGSADA, please.
Yeah, I think very hard issues that we are discussed, but it's very interesting. I agree with the speaker. Say, I think the young people is the age of change. The one, the I think it's the time to change because it's the century of the 21st, 21. Yeah. So, talking about the mindset, for the elderly mindset, I think it's very hard to change. Not very hard, they have to take time, but because the elderly or senior officer, they have passed a lot of experience, and something is really set up in the mind already. But for the time of change, the one who changed to make a change is the young generation who have young experience, small experience. That's why it's very hard for the one who get more food experience to change for the one who have a small young experience. That's why as I mentioned before, we need to create the platform. The platform, I think we have two platforms. We have the dialogue, the policy dialogue level. We create the policy dialogue level for the young to talk to the high level. But another channel, we should have an non-official platform, like I present this on my presentation, hotline counseling. Through the hotline counseling, we know deeper fact and emotion of the young people, that we cannot talk face to face to the higher at the official meeting. So maybe my experience in Laos, we have a hotline counseling, and everyone we submit the information, fact and emotion, and forward to the higher level. So in this way, the higher level will know well what is the young people thinking, what is the young people cannot talk face to face. I think we have two platforms, it's official and unofficial. Yeah. So we can reach the young people more deeper and get the real facts, from the young people. Yes, thank you very much, Excellency Ambassador. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. KINGSADA. And Rian?
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. It is indeed a very interesting question. First thing first, I would like to address, I believe that showing respect doesn't necessarily means that we are not able to express or to to communicate with the older generations. For example, me in the ASEAN Youth Organization, we've collaborate with so many partners, also including with the ASEAN-IPR. I myself has the chance, to collaborate under your leadership as well, Your Excellencies. And I feel that I never really encounter the challenges in communicating my opinions, my thoughts related to certain issues to the older generations. For example, since I was students related to international security and peace, so I got various opportunities to be involved in various peace projects as well. I also cooperated with the older generations. And as per now, I never really, encountered the challenges in order for me to expressing my opinions and my thoughts related to the project itself. So to highlight related to the questions, the issues is not related to us, the youngest generations, showing our respect, but how can we communicate our message to the older generations? So it's more into our strategy to use certain ways in delivering the message in order to to get by the older generation in certain ways as well. So we could be able to create more peaceful interactions between these intergenerational cooperations. And I also would like to highlight that while we are finding our strategy in enhancing our skills in communications, we also need to understand, since we are the young people, we also need to always learn, always enhance the peace building knowledge and skills. So it is also related to build the older generation trust to us, so we could be able to have more opportunities, more spaces to voice out our express our opinions. So my 2 cents for the older generation as well. I believe that by building trust between this intergenerational, it is also needed. So then we could reach the youth meaningful engagement in peace building efforts. It would be all for me, Your Excellencies. I'll offer these things to you.
Thank you very much. If I may add, I think building trust also involves the communications that you use. And I think if you understand each other, because I know the youth have just a different way of communicating as opposed to the older generation. I've got one right now in the house. So, I think you need an open mind, you need an open heart, to accept the way they do things and say things, but it doesn't mean we cannot trust them. And Mahmudi, when you said that we have to keep up with the technology, all right, I agree. But sometimes, I'm sorry, I'm not just speaking in defense, but sometimes the youth needs to have a little bit more patience to open their time and their patience with the elder generations. Because my generation, I speak for myself, I'm technologically gapped. I don't know how to say it in English properly, but that's the way. Very interesting. Well, I'm sorry we are approaching the end of our program, and I'm sorry for those of you who have not had the chance to send out your questions. However, before we close, I would like to call on a youth advocate, and it is Bapak Puja, the Executive Director of ASEAN-IPR. And I would just like to invite him to say a few words. As I said earlier, he's very much interested in the youth. Pak Puja, Pak Idi, you have the floor. You have the screen, sorry.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador Tobing, for this opportunity. I will be very brave, taking into considerations of time. We have no luxury of time. Well, very, very interesting discussion in it, especially how we understand the way of thinking of youth, especially on peace. Certainly, peace is not only the absence of conflict, or we see or perceive peace as a white dove flying over the rainbow with branch of olive oils. This is not about that, actually, because in peace, actually, it's working together. Whether you're young, whether you are old. So that's the end goal of our community, especially the ASEAN community. Of course, the main goals is how we shift the challenge into opportunities. I believe our older generations, our founding fathers in the past already successful shift or switch and change from a distrust of nations here in ASEAN. Please remember that ASEAN was built from the distrust among the countries before in 1960s, but they managed to change from this distrust into reservoir of trust and confidence. I believe this is a very, very good investment for us, the young and the old generation. So how we preserve this and how we nurture this investment has been built by our founding fathers, in which they built already a reservoir of trust left for us. The basic actually narratives is they have opened the space now for us to make use of this trust and confidence in our regions for a peace and to nurture peace in the future. So the question is actually now, it's not about the old or the young. So how we fast grasp this changes in the world. The young and the old generations to work together to face those changes and also the challenges, and brings these challenges becoming the opportunity. So let's give the opportunity for the younger generations in the decision-making process. I believe it has been started. The young generation is growing. The old generation is fading away. But now, how peacefully we transfer the baton of leadership to the younger generations. It is said that if you walk alone, you may walk fast, but if you walk together, the younger generations and the older generations, we may walk longer and in sustainable way. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Pak Idi. That was really a knockout, I would say. Now, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, before closing, I have been requested that the committee, the Secretariat, is going to do a picture, is going to take a picture. So please open up your video. So pictures can be taken, and please put on your big smile.
Ambassador, if I may seek your permission, the Secretariat will help guide the group photo. We'll be taking a picture of the moderator, all the three speakers, and the Executive Director of ASEAN-IPR. On my count, please. 1, 2, 3. Another one. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mbak Kartika. Well, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for a very interesting session. And I will not make any conclusions, and I think it speaks for itself. It has been really a very interesting discussion. And I hope this will also inspire the upcoming Youth and Tech project, which Rian has referred to. And I wish you all the best of luck. And for all the speakers, thank you very much. And please do stay safe and healthy, and take care. And until we meet again, thank you. And thank you, Pa Idi, for inviting me. All the best to Pa Idi and his able colleagues. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Ambassador, for moderating this afternoon's discussion. We would also like to thank our distinguished speakers for their time, for sharing their expertise and answering some of the tough questions posed by the audience. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the second session of the ASEAN-IPR's Discussion Series 2021. We hope you have found the discussion interesting and useful. We apologize for any technical inconveniences during the discussion. We express our sincere appreciation to all attendees in Zoom and viewers on YouTube who have followed the discussion from beginning to end. You can review the discussion that has taken place this afternoon on the ASEAN-IPR's YouTube channel. And if you have follow-up questions, please send your question through the email as indicated in the message box. We plan to have several more sessions with a variety of interesting themes and topics, so we hope you'll be able to join our next discussion series. In the meantime, we hope you stay safe and healthy. Thank you and good afternoon. Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, DJ KINGSADA. Thank you, Mas Mahmudi. And thank you, Mas Afryan.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.